O'Reilly! Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today I'm bringing you a new series and a new topic with Exposed Investigates, the Mica Miller case. So quickly, what sparked this one was a message from a listener pointing me in the direction of some brand new charges against John Paul Miller, Mica Miller's husband, and shocking allegations of sex abuse of a 15-year-old. But y'all know how we roll around here on Exposed, and these new charges are just one aspect of a large, really very large story. And y'all know me, I want to give you the full deets. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with John Paul Miller, you can't really tell his story without telling Mica Miller's story. And I'm going to do things a little bit different because where we're going to start this story is with the death of Mica Miller, and we'll work our way through this entire horrific incident starting from the beginning. So the entire story really begins with this first short clip. And just a quick warning, it may be disturbing for some listeners.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
At National Park.
What's the phone number you're calling me from?
843-655-5242.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff. I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, I don't think you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Tell me what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
So pretty horrific stuff right there. But what led to it? What led to this woman's decision to end her life? That's what we're going to get into today. And I got to tell you, when I dug into this case, it was, in all honesty, one of the most shocking, disturbing cases that I've really ever dug into. And I've been doing this quite a while. Now, that phone call you just heard was made on April 27th of 2024 by 30-year-old Mica Miller. And to give you a little history on Mica Miller, she was born in Wichita, Kansas on March 7th of 1994. And she grew up in a very religious environment, with her connection to her faith playing a very significant role in her formative years and even later on as an adult. Mica was the third of 6 children, and although her family, they struggled sometimes financially. I mean, they had 6 children to feed, but despite the challenges, they had what appeared to be a very loving family. Mica's mother, Angelita, she worked as a nurse, while her father, Michael, he held various jobs to support the family. One of her sisters would later say that Mica was a vibrant, creative, musically gifted child who could sing before she could even talk properly. Mica's love for music would play a significant role in her life going forward. Now, at the age of 15, Mica Miller moves to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And as all families do that are active in their faith, they start looking for a church to attend once they move to South Carolina. And they soon found what was known as Solid Rock Ministries. That was founded by John Paul Miller, known as J.P. Miller, which at this time, the church was relatively new, only been open about a year. Mica in particular, she fell in love with the church. The congregation at this church at this time, it was a much younger congregation than what she was used to. She became very involved with Solid Rock Church. By the time she was 16, she was a regular soloist in church services. She also led the youth choir, and she was thought of as a role model for younger members of that congregation. She was very devoted to the church and by default to J.P. Miller, who was the church leader at the time that she joined. Mica at this time was 15 and J.P. Miller was 29. One of her friends at the time would say Mica would talk about Pastor J.P., as she called him, like he hung the moon. She went on to say everything was Pastor J.P. says this or Pastor J.P. thinks that. At the time, we thought she was really into her faith, and looking back, it seems like he had become her whole world. She was just enamored with this guy. So along the way, she also meets and falls in love with another active church member during this time. And his name was Jeremy Dees. And in 2012, when Mica was 18 years old, she marries Jeremy, who was just a few years older than she was. Now, JP, although he was much older than Jeremy, was considered Jeremy's best friend. And of course, he officiated their wedding. And life moved on for the young couple. Mica actually takes on the role of JP's personal secretary, and she also took on the role of babysitter for his children. Now, obviously, this is a recipe for disaster. You have a young 18-year-old impressionable girl here who thinks her pastor is perfect in every way. You have the pastor, JP, who is 14 years older than her, who thinks he is perfect in every way. And he also had some other issues, allegedly, that we'll get into later. But it didn't take a rocket scientist to see how easily it may be for JP to groom Mica, especially considering they're going to be spending an exorbitant amount of time around each other. So all seemed well until 2015. 3 years into Mica's marriage to Jeremy, JP's wife, Allison, actually finds her husband and Mica in, let's just say, a compromising position. And after this discovery, both Mica's husband, Jeremy, and JP's wife, Allison, they leave Solid Rock Church and they start divorce proceedings on their respective spouses. In an affidavit released later on by Allison, she said, quote, "His marital misconduct not only destroyed my marriage, but also caused me to lose my church family and income, along with severely damaging the relationship between the defendant and our children. I agree to work with the defendant to reach an agreement on resolving the issues of our marriage and not to seek adultery divorce as an attempt to prevent him from further damage in his career as a church pastor." So before we go any further, let me give you a little history on J.P. Miller. John Paul Miller was born in 1979 and was also raised in a Christian household. Miller's father, Reginald Wayne Miller, he was a prominent figure in the Christian faith and was described as having the, quote, "looks, charms, and ambition to become a leading church figure." Now, despite his father's early success, Reginald Wayne Miller's career was marred by a ton of scandals, and you know how we like to report scandals around here. In September of 2006, police charged Reverend Reginald with lewdness and prostitution after he allegedly exposed himself to an undercover officer. He precipitated in a pretrial intervention program, left the church, had his criminal record expunged, but kept a Bible college. Then in 2014, 8 international students claimed the Bible college they enrolled in, which was his, was essentially a forced labor camp. They alleged that the classes were a sham, that they worked 30 to 56 hours a week for $50 cash, and the accommodations, both housing and food, were poor. Threats to revoke visas followed any student complaints. On May 14th of 2014, Reverend Reginald was arrested and eventually pleaded guilty and negotiated a plea deal on that. And other rumors continue to swirl. Even allegations, and it's important to say allegations, of incest between Reverend Reginald and John Paul. And the whole apple tree thing starts to play out in John Paul Miller's youth as well. Court records showed that as a teenager, JP had multiple run-ins with the law, including arrests for delinquency, driving under the influence, and assault. However, the most serious incident occurred in February of 1998 when JP was just 19 years old. According to court documents, JP drove his truck into a residential area of Myrtle Beach that had been closed due to flooding. When a 19-year-old woman asked him to slow down, JP allegedly accelerated his vehicle, striking the woman, then continued to drive for about 100 yards with her clinging to the hood of the truck. In 1999, he pleaded guilty to assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature and received a 4-year suspended sentence and 3 years of probation. He was also ordered to complete 500 hours of community service. So, like father, like son, already taking shape there. But getting back to 2015, Mica and JP, at this point, they're both separated. They're headed for divorce after being caught cheating with each other. And JP did not handle it well, even though it was completely his doing. Police reports from this period document multiple incidents of alleged harassment against his soon-to-be ex-wife. Allison noted that JP would follow her to her place of employment, her new church, and even her home. A police report dated March 6 of 2016 said, quote, "The victim says the offender used the children as an excuse to see her, and the victim feels sure the offender comes to her home when she's not there." And of course, offender is JP. Several months ago, reporting officers responded to the victim's residence at the request of her father, who stated the offender was lying in the victim's front yard. The victim was not home at the time. And y'all, that behavior is totally consistent with patterns often seen in abusive relationships when the abuser feels like they're losing control, because abuse is always about control. The abuser senses they're losing the grip on their victim. They escalate their tactics, and the escalation that can include stalking, harassment, and even attempts to manipulate the person through guilt or threats. So eventually, as we move on, JP moves on, or seemingly so. And in 2017, Mica and JP actually get married. At this time, Mica's 23 and just a strikingly beautiful young woman. JP at this time is 37 and handsome guy. Doesn't look his age. He's in shape. So from the outside, JP and Mica have this image of a happy couple, and they seem dedicated to the church. Mica even takes on expanded roles in the church. She started leading worship, overseeing youth programs, and participating in mission trips. But as you've learned throughout your time with me on Exposed, behind closed doors, there's probably a totally different story going on, and this is no exception. JP was allegedly very controlling, verbally abusive, physically abusive, all the things. And throughout her marriage to JP, Mica made several attempts to leave the relationship. So before I go any further, let me read you this article. And I'm going to reference an article on a love story between a guy named Chris Skinner and a woman named Susie Skinner. And then I'll explain how they play a role in this story. And the article reads, Chris Skinner was dating a nursing student when he asked his grandfather to pray that she would be the girl he would marry, but his grandfather refused. Instead, he asked his grandson to make a written list of the qualities that are really important in a woman, and Chris complied. In the following month, he found them in Susie Skinner. "I just got hit by this force," said Chris, a 34-year-old quadriplegic. "I thought, that's exactly what I want, and I'll put on the full press." As the grandstand celebrates Valentine's Day, Chris reflects on how he discovered what love really is and snagged his perfect partner. On June 10th of 2000, Chris was paralyzed in a car accident after he and his friend had been drinking at a friend's wedding. A native of North Carolina's Outer Banks, he was a hard-partying fraternity boy at Radford University in Virginia who had unbuckled his seatbelt before his friend lost control of the car, throwing him out of the vehicle and breaking his neck. Chris found himself a few months after the accident at Woodrow Wilson Rehab Center in Virginia, where Susie, 25, was his physical therapist. They worked together for 2 hours, 5 days a week, for 8 weeks. Chris said he was in a sensitive, intimate, and vulnerable situation, and Susie was incredibly professional as he poured his heart out during this emotional time. It was also emotional for Susie, who said she had never worked with someone so acute. They worked on strength and balance, aimed for him to get in and out of his wheelchair on his own, but they didn't reach that goal. That was a new experience for Susie, who had been successful with most of her other patients, but she said Chris's personality was new for her too. What was different about Chris is he's always very honest, Susie said, whereas a lot of guys would keep things to themselves if they're angry or hopeful. But Chris would just share it all. The two began to develop a strong bond, but love wasn't in the picture at that time. Chris said Susie was always a woman of faith, and he thought she was cute and a goody-goody in a good way. One of those you marry, he said. but he contracted a MSRA infection and was moved to a hospital. Chris and his mother guilted Susie into visiting Chris and staying in touch, as by this time, he said, friends who had once overcrowded his room had completely disappeared. But as the months went by, the communication dwindled. Before the accident, Chris, the self-described hippie beach kid, had earned a .8 grade point average in 3 semesters at Radford, bounced into the Army National Guard and Community College, where he earned a 3.0 GPA, and back to Radford. Months after his hospital stay, he went back to Radford, where he eventually earned a master's degree, but still managed to keep up his partying ways. Quote, everything was gung-ho, Skinner's back, but a year and a half later, I couldn't find anyone to help me, he said. I've learned a lot about love and friendship and a lot about life. Chris said he just had to grow up, and it was his fateful talk with his grandfather that he returned to rehab center for work on his wheelchair and ran into Susie again. He had help from friends to enlist for a hike on a trail in the Blue Ridge Mountains where they reconnected at an overlook, and he asked if he could give her a call because he knew she was the one. Susie said at this point he was an entirely different person. It didn't take me too long to come around. He is the strongest person I've ever met. He can shift gears and enjoy whatever happens. The couple returned to the mountain overlook on the 3rd anniversary of Chris's accident, and he popped the question. She said yes, and they were married 6 months later. Their twins, Caleb and Athea, came along in 2007, and they celebrated their 10th anniversary on January 10th. The Skinner family moved to Myrtle Beach in April for the flatter terrain that helps Chris move around more freely. They settled in the Emmons Preserve neighborhood, where they have found an abundance of love in their neighbors, who within 4 days raised $5,000 to pay medical expenses for Zoe, a rescued Yorkie with canine angels, who is now a devoted service dog for Chris. Chris is a motivational speaker who has talked with more than 1 million students about making the right choices and making the best life. He wrote the book, The Ultimate Learning Experience, maintains a website, and said he wants students to know they're not invincible and that each decision could be their last and to use it wisely. I used to think no one's ever going to love me and I wanted to be more normal, but now I've realized that no one's normal, Chris said with a grin. Before the accident, it seems like life didn't exist, like it was a different universe. My life is so much sweeter now. So that is their love story. And there is a big reason that I bring that up, because in 2021, while JP is married to Mica, he was allegedly having an affair with a woman by the name of Susie Skinner. Now, as you know, Susie was married to a quadriplegic that I just told you about, Chris Skinner. And according to family court documents filed by JP's ex-wife, Allison, John Paul was approached by Susie's husband, Chris, in 2021 and allegedly told JP to, quote, stay away from my wife and kids, unquote. 2 weeks later, Chris Skinner died in a drowning accident. Also, according to sources, Mica brought up Susie to several friends and discussed the alleged affair. Now, I have the police report from that drowning, and here's how that read. So in these police reports, I'm just going to paraphrase this one. It says, the camera shows the victim entering the pool area and going over to the area where chess sets are. The victim is then seen with his dog leaving that area and driving around the pool. The victim then stops at the curve in the pool and then suddenly moves quickly forward and goes into the water. The victim is seen lifting his head up a few times before the camera cuts to a different time. The camera then shows the fire department responding. The victim is on camera going into the pool at 7:56. Then a member of the fire department jumps in at 8:56. There was no one else in the pool area at the time of the incident, and the officer arrived on the scene to make a copy of the camera footage. The wheelchair will be placed into property and evidence for the family to come retrieve it. The wheelchair was transported to the police department with a black backpack that was on the wheelchair. And another officer's report says, upon arrival, personnel had already extricated the male victim from the pool and were performing CPR. While they were tending to the victim, I began to separate witnesses from onlookers and evacuate the people who were not pertinent to the scene. I notified the sergeant of the situation, and he notified detectives and crime scene investigators who arrived on the scene to perform their investigations. I was able to identify 4 witnesses who all reported they arrived at approximately 8:30 to 8:40 in the morning on the date above and noticed an object in the pool which they thought was a float or toy left in the pool by one of the kids or community members the night before. They reported that when they looked closer, they realized it was one of their community members they knew to be the victim, Chris Skinner. One of the witnesses immediately called 911. Ambulance arrived and began to get the victim loaded for transport. At that time, the victim's wife arrived on the scene and positively identified the victim's identity. The victim was then loaded and transported. Officers arrived on the scene, began interviewing victim's wife as well as other people on the scene to get more information. And due to her background and training for drowning incidents, another officer took over as the primary unit in the case. So that was just a couple of reports there. And this third one, a little bit more descriptive, received a phone call from Sergeant Gibson in reference to a drowning, arrived on scene and was advised by the fire department that the victim had been transported to the hospital. The victim was wheelchair bound and had been paralyzed for 21 years and only had use of his neck muscles and biceps. I spoke with the wife of the victim, who advised that his daily routine consisted of going to the pool every morning and that nothing was unusual this morning and that he wasn't suicidal. I reviewed video footage, which is motion activated. The victim made entry into the pool with his dog, and then at 7:56 a.m., his wheelchair is seen moving towards the water. The victim falls in along with his wheelchair, which he is strapped to, and is seen attempting to pull his head up. The victim is underwater for over 40 minutes before someone locates him and calls it in. I responded, where I was advised that the victim was on life support, but that he had no brain function. Eric, who is the neighbor of the victim, stated the victim called out to him and asked him if he had a key card to get to the pool and let him in. He advised the victim that he was meeting someone at the pool to play chess with. He advised that he was unaware who this person was, and to his knowledge, there was no one at the pool. That's kind of strange. I reviewed video footage and observed the victim go into the pool area at 7:52 a.m., make his way toward the back where the chessboard is. The camera cuts off due to motion activation. Then 4 minutes later, the victim is seen making his way toward the pool area roundabout, where he is observed going into the pool with his wheelchair, which he was strapped to. The victim is observed attempting to pull his head up, but unable to do so. The victim is underwater for 40 minutes before paramedics arrive on the scene to render aid, was transported to the hospital, placed on a ventilator, had no brain activity, etc. And of course, he passed away. And y'all, that was in 2021, actually September 7th. And again, I tell you that for a reason. This woman, Susie Skinner, who is going to come up later as we go along, becomes an important figure in our story. So put that name in your back pocket for now. And we'll move on to 2022 and more troubling events. On June 23rd of that year, a female called the Myrtle Beach Police Department all the way from New Jersey. She stated this, and I'm reading these directly from the report. And incidentally, y'all, I have every report from this entire case from start to finish. So some of this you're going to hear for the first time, because for whatever reason, nobody has reported on it, to my knowledge. Especially in South Carolina, I have some contacts, and I did manage to get these reports. And this one says, a female called the City of Myrtle Beach Police Department stating that she is getting lewd comments and photos from a pastor at this church. And that's how it's written, at this church. She filed a report with New Jersey Police Department, but New Jersey's police department is stating that she needs to file a report with us since he is located here, meaning the person she was complaining about. And that's kind of where the report cuts off. I'm not seeing where anybody even got back with this person. Maybe they told her to call back and speak to a detective and she never did, but it just cuts off there. But it's interesting. And although it doesn't name a person in that report, allegedly that was J.P. Miller that this female was calling about. And it doesn't specify if it was a minor or adult female. And nothing else is out there, as I said. So I'm only left to assume that he was texting someone he met online in a chat room or something like that, and was apparently sending lewd pictures and making lewd comments. Of course, super common, sadly, these days, but related to J.P. Miller, allegedly, and will be kind of a sign of things to come that is telling. So we move on to January of 2023. And after all these incidents that I've just covered with you, Mica finally gets the courage to leave JP and South Carolina, and she moves to Kansas. Now, it seems like she's ready to start a new life. She joins a new church, and she begins building friendships outside of JP's influence. However, after just a few months, she abruptly returns to South Carolina and to JP. So they do eventually reconcile, but it wasn't long before problems really got bad for Mica and JP. And on October 8th of 2023, she actually files for divorce, citing adultery. But JP, at that time, he's not served the divorce papers. They do separate, though. And at this point forward, this divorce, y'all, gets really, and I mean really messy between these two. And we're going to go through it. We'll start out on February 8th of 2024. Mica was involuntarily hospitalized for 48 hours. Then, just 2 days later, on February 10th, Mica gets discharged from the hospital, and the staff informs her at that time that John Paul reportedly picked up her purse and car keys while she was hospitalized. And a police report that I'm going to refer to in just a second said she returned to the Walmart parking lot where her car was left, and it was gone. And in that police report, it says occurred on February 12th, white 2019 Honda Accord was taken by her ex-husband, meeting with the caller, this was the 911 call, at Dick's Sporting Goods now. Then on February 15th, a phone call was placed to police. And before I play this 911 call, there are a few points where the sound will go in and out, and that's due to the call being redacted. It's redacting out like phone numbers, dates of birth, addresses, those sorts of things as the 911 operator asks those questions. But here's what that call placed by Mica Miller sounded like on February 15th of 2024.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, I have somebody who I believe to be in a manic state and is a direct danger to the people in his household and himself and others. I need an immediate pickup, not the 72-hour pickup that a spouse can initiate. I need this to be a little quicker because he is a flight risk. There's been domestic violence. He put his hands on me. And I need an immediate pickup, not a 72-hour where he can flee the county.
Okay, what's the address?
Where I think he should be. Water, which is one word, Cold Water Circle, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29588.
And who is he to you?
Can you say that one more time?
Who is he to you, honey?
He's my husband.
Okay, and he put his hands on you?
Yeah, he tried to throat punch me, but thankfully I was standing up, so he made contact, but it didn't knock the wind out of me like it should have.
He put his
and he
hands
pushed me down in front of thousands of people at Disney World, and so Yeah, and his best friend even saw that happen. He
When did he
slapped
put
drinks
his-
right out of my hand.
Okay, honey, when did he put his hands around your throat?
That was before I was in the hospital after that from just a panic attack of what was happening. That was about a week ago, but I just got out of the hospital a couple of days ago. And when I got out, he was impersonating my identity with the phone that he had in his hands. I didn't even have my phone or anything, and he's texting everybody. He hacked my social media, and he's got guns in the home and a baby staying there right now. Or at 6 o'clock tonight, his sister who lives with him is going to pick up her baby because she got her baby taken away from her because she's a danger, apparently at risk of being a danger to her baby because she's postpartum. So by 6 o'clock tonight, when they pick him up in Conway, that baby's going to be at that house where he's used guns as intimidation in the past, where he's put his hands on me, and he's on an antipsychotic medicine that he's misusing. And I even got off the phone with the pharmacy. He didn't pick up his latest prescription, which he should have on January 3rd. And I believe at this point, based on the people that he's come in contact with, some of them reported to me that based on how he was talking, they feared he had killed and buried me somewhere. And I feel like I need an immediate pickup because he is a flight risk because his son, the same thing just happened to his oldest son, and he fled to Georgetown.
Okay. What's your first and last name?
This is this is her dad, and she's having to use my phone because he took her phone. He has possession of her car, her purse, all her valuables.
Guns that were bought in my name that I fear he's going to use and then say it was in my name. He's got my CWP license, he's got my public notary license, and my seal and my stamp, which he's been trying to force me to sign a post-nup for the last year and a half, and I fear that he's going to use my seal to impersonate my signature like he's been impersonating my identity for the past 3 days. He signed that post-nup saying that I get nothing if we divorce. And that's not even my biggest concern. It's the identity theft. I don't care about not getting anything from the divorce. I really don't care. But that was given to me by the Secretary of State, trusting me to keep it safe. And then when I got in the hospital, they gave all my belongings to my husband, and we're here now.
Are you at that house? Are you at Coldwater?
No, we've parked in a open parking lot in Market Common by the soccer field.
Okay, they are going to want to meet with you. Can you get anywhere close to Coldwater?
Absolutely. I can be in Azalea Lakes, the apartment complex right across from it.
Okay. Can you head that way?
And another reason I feel like it's so urgent is because he's very hyperactive right now. He's causing a lot of damage very quickly. And his son is a felon who's been living in my house after I left. His sister, it got her baby taken away from her because she's postpartum. His father is a registered sex offender because of what he's done. So the whole family, I'm very scared for what they'll do to my family, the church. He's a pastor. And especially me and my life.
What's his name, honey?
His name.
What's his date of birth?
His
And how old is he?
He is 44 and a half. He's 6'2", male, brown hair, brown eyes. His son is identical to him, but he's like 5'2". So please don't arrest the wrong person. But he's
Is there
6 foot
any
2.
children at that house, honey?
They should be at school right now. And he works remotely because he's a pastor. So he's either at my house or he fled to his son's house in Conway. But either way, we need to find him because his son has guns. His son is a felon.
Okay. The fire department's being sent down the line, and I'll tell you exactly what to do next. Do not try to put the fire out. Do not. All right, honey. What kind of car will you be in at Azalea Lake?
Blue Ford Expedition.
And I can be in the first turn. So when you first come into Cascades and Azalea Lake's entrance, the very first turn, there's like a dirt patch before you get to the neighborhood where it's like a cul-de-sac dirt patch. And it's before you even enter the Cascades neighborhood. It's very obvious on the right.
Okay.
That way we don't even have to technically enter the neighborhood. We can be right on the outskirts.
If anyone else sits over here, like I'll tell Diana.
Okay, honey. And it's 246 Coldwater Circle, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If I hit that,
You need to take a right.
right, it'll be up on the left.
Yeah, it'll be up on the left, and you'll see the dirt patch where I talked about. Where there's when you first get in the neighborhood, immediately on the right there is a dirt patch. And his son, who's a felon, was following me around town in his coastal painting, his business he owns. His truck is decked out. He even rolled the window down because I rolled the window down, and he was following me.
Okay.
And his son, like I said, has had 3 domestic violence arrests in the last 3 months. His ex-wife currently has had his children taken away, and they're getting a divorce. The sister is going through a divorce. She lives in the home. She's postpartum and very dangerous to her baby. That's why she can't have her baby.
Honey, I have that call in, and officer be dispatched as soon as possible, okay?
Okay, thanks. We'll be waiting. We're here.
And it's the Azalea Lake. Okay, alrighty. They'll be there as soon as possible. Anything changes, just call us back, okay?
Okay, thanks so much.
And maybe in that recording, you can kind of tell that mentally this is taking a toll on Mica, as it would anyone, I'm sure, when you're going through a divorce with someone as controlling as J.P. Miller seems to be. So police investigate, and here's what they wrote in the actual report. I met with complainant, which is Mica Miller, and complainant stated that she had been separated from her husband since January of 2023. The complainant stated that she was involuntarily hospitalized on 2/8 of 2024 and left her silver Honda Accord parked in a parking lot of a Walmart market located on Walton Drive. When the police were dispatched from the hospital staff informed her that her husband had picked up her purse and car keys while she was hospitalized. The police stated that when she was released from the hospital, she returned to the Walmart neighborhood market and discovered her vehicle was gone. The complainant believed that her husband committed fraud by initiating her involuntary hospitalization and stole her car while she was in the hospital. The police then contacted husband, who stated that he and his wife were not legally separated and that she suffers from mental health disorder, stated that she experiences episodes, quote unquote, on an annual basis near Christmas when she becomes reckless and spends large amounts of money when she stops taking her prescribed medication. JP then stated he was in possession of the Honda Accord in order to prevent his wife from selling it during an episode. JP pointed out the fact the vehicle was marital property and that he was unwilling to give it back to his wife for a month, which he stated was usually the time frame for these reckless episodes. Due to both parties stating they were legally married, I made the determination that the Honda Accord was considered marital property. Therefore, I could not establish a criminal offense. I have nothing further at this time. And so that's that report in that incident. But it wasn't long before other incidents were released. As a matter of fact, within the same week, JP calls police on Mica regarding a theft of church funds. And the report says a caller says an employee took money out of the missions account and also stole $1,200 from the church. Suspect is not on scene, suspect being Mica Miller. Police spoke with the caller and determined the incident happened in another jurisdiction. Caller was advised to contact other jurisdiction and speak with officer there. In just 4 days after that report, another 911 call was placed by JP Miller. And it really paints the picture of the escalation between these two.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
It's Coldwater Circle. Coldwater Circle.
Okay. Slow down.
My ex-wife who just got out of my wife who got out of the mental institute, her and her dad are trying to break into the house, and I need police here immediately.
Okay. Are the doors?
Yes, the doors are locked. They're trying to break in.
All right. Calm down. Take a breath. What's your name?
Okay. The cops have been here several times over the past 2 weeks because of her.
It's a good callback number in case we get disconnected. All right. Is anybody else in the house with you?
Yes, my sister's here.
Okay. Can you get yourselves upstairs to a bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. Can you lock the bedroom door?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get someone started out your way. All right. Oh,
yes,
do you know, are they armed?
I don't know. She's been looking for a gun. Last time she came here, she tried to get a gun.
Okay.
And the police had to throw her out the house because she told them she wanted clothing. Instead of clothing, she went to grab a gun. Or she tried to grab a gun. She didn't grab one because the safe is locked and she doesn't even know the combination. But yes, she tried to.
Okay. So this is your ex-wife and her father?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Are they threatening you? What have they said?
They just keep beating the door and beating the windows. And they're saying, let me in, let me in.
Are you upstairs now?
No. I'm at the stairway, though.
I want you guys to lock yourselves in a bedroom. I'm sending the police out.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, stay on the phone with me. I'm going to stay on the phone with you, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to stay on the phone with you. Are you able to get yourself to safety?
Yes. I'm in the back bedroom.
Okay. All right.
I'm afraid they're going to try to steal some of my stuff, too. She's been trying to take stuff, and we're already going to court.
Okay. Don't worry about that right now, okay?
Okay.
It's just you and your sister, no children?
Yes. No, 2 little dogs, that's it.
Okay. All right. Do you think you can leave safely?
No way. There's no way I could get out. They won't let me out.
Okay. I'm going to stay on the phone with you, okay? You tell me if you hear anything, see anything.
Okay, thank you. I'll look at the doorbell camera if I want you to see going out there. Oh, they blocked it.
They blocked the camera?
Yeah. Now they're beating on the wall again. They're beating on the door and the walls.
I'm just typing in what you're telling me. I hear the dogs barking.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm shaking. I can't stop shaking.
Okay. Stay on the phone with me, okay?
He's a very dangerous man. He was in the Army, and he's threatened me before.
All right. What's his name? Is that his last name? Is he white, black, Asian, Hispanic?
Is that it? Oh, the door locked? No, I don't want him talking here.
All right, and what's your ex-wife's name?
She just got out of the mental institute a few weeks ago, and we have a court date coming up. because we're separating, and we had to call the cops on her at the church and the school last week as well because she tried to cause damage there. She's not really herself right now. She's supposed to be taking lithium, and she hasn't been taking it.
Okay. Is she also white?
Yes.
Okay.
She looks a little bit Asian.
Okay. Are the
They're not
dogs
at the door
with you?
Anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you
the
know where
dogs
they
are
went?
in their cage. No.
Well, I don't want you to put yourself in danger. You stay in the room.
Not, yeah.
They're already, the police are already on their way to you.
They're in their car. They're back in their car.
Okay. What kind of a car are they in? Are they in two separate cars?
They're in a HRV, a CRV. They're in a brown CRV, and we had to call the police, the city police. We had to call because her family broke into my school that I own, and they wouldn't leave. So we had to call the city police just Friday to get them out of there.
Okay.
I needed no trespassing for her dad, and the cops already told him one time to leave and not come back. This will be the second time he's come on the property after they've told him not to come on the property of my house.
Okay. Stay in the bedroom.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll let you know when it's good to come out when the officers are on scene, okay?
Yeah.
Are they still in the driveway? Are they still in the property?
Yeah, they're still on the property.
Okay.
And let me just say, I love my wife, and I want her to be okay, and I'm trying to do what I can to get her to take her medicine and have her come home and, all that kind of stuff. But I had to file papers just for the safety of my children and to keep her.
I get it. Believe me, I understand. I get it. You have
I want the police officer to know that I'm not mad at her, but her dad's not allowed on the property ever. And right now, my lawyer told me that I had to file just to protect all the assets because she drained the bank account. She bought 2 cars in the past week. She's doing frantic things because she hasn't taken her medicine. It's not normally like this for her. She only does it about once a year. But right now, her dad's just been very evil. And it's just shaking so bad.
Okay. Take a deep breath in, all right? Take a deep breath in. I'm going to stay on the phone.
Okay. I don't want them to be upset with her, but it's her dad that kind of causes all this. She's mentally ill and doesn't know what she's doing at the time. She thinks she's moving to Africa and she wants to sell everything, and she's just not well. She just got out of the mental institute here at South Strand about 2 weeks ago, and we already have a probate. Probate's already sent a letter for her to meet on March 5th to be evaluated by a doctor, and then she'll be served tomorrow with the divorce paper, the separation papers, to tell her to stay off the property and stuff. So everything's in the works. And she's come here before with police officers twice, try to get things, and she tricked them and said she was getting clothing when she has no clothing here, and she actually tried to get a gun, and then the cops told her that she had to leave, that she couldn't even be here because of the way she was acting. So I want to make sure she doesn't take any of my stuff or hurt any of my things, or her dad should not be allowed anywhere near this property. The fact that he's banging on my walls in my house after the police already asked him to leave and not come back.
Let me see where they are. Hold on, let's see. Who's coming out to you? They're not that far away. All right, they're still in the car?
Yes, they're still in the car.
Okay.
They'll know by talking to her for more than 2 minutes that she's mentally ill. Nothing left in this house is hers. She's got everything she has, everything she owns, everything she needs. There's nothing left here. And I don't know what she did with the papers after being served. She might have thrown them away. I don't know what she did with them, so they could ask her about that.
Nothing of hers. I'm just putting in what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yeah, she has everything that's hers. I mean, I want her to come back, and I want to have a happy marriage, but she has to take her lithium.
Right.
Because she could kill one of my kids in the middle of the night. Like, she thought she tried to kill the dog one time because she thought it was baby Jesus, she said, and she had to drown it in oil.
That must have been scary.
She just emailed Mark Hammond, the Secretary of State, last week. I have the email where she sent him an email saying to investigate the 2 police officers that came here a few days before and kicked her out of the house. Like, she does these things when she's mentally ill that aren't normal. I have all the paperwork from the police officers that were here last week and the week before. I have all the notes and everything to show them what everything you need to see. I have all her her mental medicine notes. I have everything in the notebook that could.
Now, whose car is the CRV? Who does that belong to?
My wife. She just bought that 2 weeks ago, and then she bought another one just yesterday. just keeps buying cars because she's bipolar. She stole money from the church. Right now she just committed a felony a few weeks ago, and their churches, they wanted to press charges on her, and I'm begging them not to because I think that she's going to get back on her medicine and get well.
Right.
The city of Myrtle Beach they called the police. The church had to call the police on her 2 weeks ago. The sheriff picked her up. She ran away from the sheriff for 24 hours on February the 7th, 6/6, something like that. I mean,
Okay.
I have all the paperwork from her doctor right in front of me. I have her diagnosis. I have all the police reports that she's just been doing the past few weeks.
How long was she in the hospital?
She was there for 5 days, but this is the 6th time that she's been there. She's been. No, I can't tell. She's been in 6 mental institutes over the past several years, and they normally give her lithium, and she gets out, she's fine. Well, this time they didn't give her any lithium.
I told you this was messy. Now, the next significant matter between these two occurs on March 11th of 2024 when a 911 call is placed by Mica Miller. This one claiming razor blades had been stuck in her tires by J.P. Miller. And here's what that sounded like.
Hi, I got a razor blade put in my tire at the Spring-Made Pier, and I wanted to make a police report.
Okay, what's the address you're at?
I'm at the veranda in the back of Market Common.
Okay, what address are you at?
Margarita Drive.
What, ma'am?
Margarita Drive.
Okay, you know what?
And my car is parked at the front of veranda.
Okay, and this is a Myrtle
It's a
Beach.
black Civic.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I was parked at the parking garage right there at the Spring-Made Pier. Walked on the beach. It was around 1:30-ish, like a.m., that I got back to my car. And when I got back and I pulled away, I heard the pop in my tire, so I immediately got out. And I took a picture. It's a giant razor sticking out the side of my wheel. And this same razor was put in my tire the day that I had to appear at probate court on March 5th. In the parking lot of the county clerk. They saw the videos. They said nobody came near my car, but I have pictures of both razors, and they're identical.
So when they watched the
someone's
videos,
obviously following me.
when they watched the videos, they never saw anyone going near your car?
Correct, which means that someone was trying to get me to not be able to go to court, and they wanted me to have a flat tire. It was a psych evaluation from my ex-husband. It was a mandated psych evaluation, which I got dismissed after that day. They cleared me, dismissed, and dropped the case. But there was still a razor in my tire that day at court. And then just now, less than a week later, there's another razor in my tire, and he's accusing me of having an affair and all this crazy stuff. And the car is in my, basically godmother's name. So it's not marital property.
All right, and you said this was yesterday this occurred?
Technically this morning, 1:30 a.m.
1:30 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, are you at the location now with Margarita Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
So your tire popped after this happened?
No, my dad's on the way now to crank it up, put the donut, and then hopefully the razor's sticking out the side, so hopefully we'll be able to pull it and plug it, so hopefully, but the other tire did have to be replaced 100%. The one that he put, this person, whoever it is, that put it in at probate court, that had to completely be replaced. This one's on the side, and it's not all the way in. It's sticking out really far, so you can see the whole razor, and hopefully I'll be able to, East Coast Honda will be able to pull the razor out. Is there like a way to check for fingerprints on that thing or something?
I have no idea. That's something that the officers will have to discuss with you, and we'll have an officer discuss to you as soon as possible and call us back if anything changes, if you have information, engine tail. And
Hold on 1 second for me. Copy. You said engine and medic too? Hold on one. Okay. All right, and you said this other incident occurred last week?
March 5th.
Okay. March 5th. Okay. All right. I'm going to put this information in and we'll have officers out to you as soon as possible, okay? And they may want to call you to get some more information. If they do, it'll be from an unknown blocked or private number. Just make sure you answer, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Diana, I need you to listen to this while I'm going to...
So the Horry County Police Department, they respond to that incident and they place a report, and I'm going to read that report quickly for you. It reads, officers were dispatched to, and it gives her address, for a report of a razor blade being placed in her tire. The complainant says this is the second time a razor has deflated her tire in the last week. The complainant said she was at Springmaid Pier around 1:30 and that she was leaving and she heard a pop and noticed a piece of metal protruding from her tire. The complainant made it home and found the tire was almost fully deflated by that point. Police observed the tire, and upon removal of the metal piece, it was found the metal was actually a tire deflation device that can be purchased online. The complainant believes J.P. Miller may have placed or had the item placed in her tire. She has noticed strange activity, what she believes is people following her or watching her, and said that JP had a history of similar actions against her. Evidence was not sufficient to prove that JP Miller placed a razor device under the tire. Nothing further. So that was that report. And it was made on March 11th of 2024. Then on March 13th, 2 days later, someone at Solid Rock Church, they file a police report alleging that Mica transferred donation funds from the church's Zeal and Cash App accounts to her personal bank account. The donations were intended for the church's nonprofit called Dare to Care mission, which was meant to fund a mission in Kenya. The report alleged that almost $1,200 was transferred to Mica's personal account. The report concluded with an investigation will follow. However, it's unclear whether the investigation was completed, and police later stated that there was not sufficient evidence to pursue charges. So, heated is an understatement for this impending divorce. And on March 22nd, of 2024, Mica Miller takes to Facebook and she uploads a video discussing her struggles, and you can just hear it in her voice, how much pressure she's feeling. And here's that.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse, and I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship. Whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs, or alcohol abuse, or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? So, I want to remind you, like a bunch of people have been reminding me lately, that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does when you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt? What do you think he thinks about that? So, encouragement in all this is, you are the bride of Christ first before anybody else's. And he's got you. And he sees you. And he loves you.
Wow. That's all I can say. I feel horrible for that woman. On March 26th, 3 days later, police are called to Mica Miller's house in response to a tracking device. And they wrote this short report. It says, police were dispatched to a suspicious call. When arriving on the scene, the complainant, Mica Miller, met with the police in her apartment, and she advised she had found a tracking device located on her vehicle. The tracking device will be collected as evidence. Then the next day, March 27th, JP calls police, and he says Mica was harassing him and made this phone report. It says, complainant says he is being harassed on social media and by text by his wife and her family. Would like to make a report about it. The complainant said he was being harassed by his wife on social media. The detective looked at the wife's Facebook post where she talks about abuse, which is what I just played you. There were no names mentioned and no intent or harassment on the social media platform. The complainant had no text or proof of harassment and was advised to block any further social media from his wife, and he was also advised to not look at her page since it upset him. The complainant mentioned defamation of character, but was told that's not a criminal matter, and that there was no evidence from what the detective saw of mentioning his name on any social media that was posted. The complainant said he was a pastor and he was worried about his reputation, and the police advised him that he could give us a call back if he was being harassed, but there was no evidence of that in his claim today. And good for police, because that's a fact. You can't stop someone from going on social media and posting their opinion on something. 2 days after that, JP calls police again and makes accusations of Mica closing an account that she was an executor of for the church. It was supposedly a bank account for a youth program. And of course, he says she drained all the money and closed the account. So this isn't getting any cleaner. And then on April 9th of 2024, Mica reports a very disturbing event to police regarding a Facebook post and a nude picture. And this is not very well known. This may be the first time a lot of you are hearing about this, even if you're familiar with this case. But I'm going to read that report. It says a nude picture of complainant, Mica Miller, was posted on Facebook by her ex-husband, who has her phone and access to her old Facebook account. Police will be on scene to meet complainant. Then it goes on to say police met with the complainant, who advised her soon-to-be ex-husband posted a nude photo of her on a Facebook page called, quote, Big Boobs and Nice Curves, unquote, and tagged her old Facebook account that he has access to. The complainant further advised he is the only person she has ever sent that type of photo to, and the photo that was posted was one she had sent to him just 6 months prior. Complainant was able to show police the photo in question. Although the complainant's breasts are exposed, the nipple is blurred out, not meeting the code of law for nudity. Furthermore, the post of the complainant on the big boobs and nice curves was posted anonymously. The complainant was further advised that once the photo is sent, the person who the photo was sent to is now the owner of the photo, and there's no way to prove he was the only one who actually posted the photo. And a lot of people don't realize that. It may piss you off that that's the way the law is, but it's true. If you text a photo to someone, they own that photo as much as you own that photo at that point. A very chicken shit thing for that asshole to do, in my opinion. April 15th, just 6 days after that incident, Mica calls police again after finding a second tracking device on her car. A second. And it reads, the complainant stated she located a heavy-duty tracker on her vehicle and wants to turn it over as evidence, believes her husband placed it on her car. Complainant agreed to meet police, but police notified her that because the two are married and she has ownership of the vehicle, this is considered a civil issue. The tracker was reportedly found on a black Honda Civic, and it goes on to list the plate number. This is not the first time she has found a tracker on her vehicle. Officer advised that the tracker is her property since the two are still legally married and the tracker remains with the complainants. So here we are, 4.5 months into 2024, and the amount of 911 calls, police reports, all of that, it's just mind-blowing. Then on April 27th, just 12 days after finding that second tracking device on her car, that horrible call I played for you at the beginning of this one by Mica Miller, her suicide call, was placed to police. An investigation would begin that would ignite not only Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but the entire country as mental spousal abuse takes the investigation in a whole new direction. And we'll pick up with that investigation next week. You won't believe it. Check out the Patreon. We got a bunch of files to upload on this case, plus commercial-free early releases, all kinds of other benefits. If you would like to help support us, we can't do any of this without our Patreon supporters. You are why we exist. I love every single one of you for the support that you show me through your Patreon membership. Check us out at patreon.com/exposedpodcastfiles. I promise you it is worth it. And until next time, for Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.